Do you have a very clear picture of what your awakening would look like? Anyone?
I've often wondered about that because I don't have a clear picture.
That's good, honey.
I don't have a true picture.
Having no picture at all is even better.
Oh, good.
I've thought about it, but I really can't imagine it.
Jesus tells us that the only way that having a picture at all has any meaning is to ask what it would be like in every moment. Never to presume that one moment is like the next, but to always recognize that if we are to appreciate the scope of the mind of God, which is where we live, then the only way that happens with any reasonable amount of truth is for us to be present in each and every moment and ask what that moment brings for us. This makes sense? Yeah. So, did you share? Did anybody have anything that was meaningful this past week that they wanted to share with the group? Or
Well, Randall and I and several other people attended a session with the channeler last Thursday in Keyport, and that was pretty interesting. This woman calls herself Lady Ashtar, and if you search for her on Google, you can find her website where they've got some short videos. And one of the things that she said was, well, maybe I should tell first how she did this. There was 9 of us there, and she went from one person to the next and called in a guardian for each person and talked about each person. That took about 2 hours, and then they had a break, and then each person got to ask one question. And some of the questions I thought were really good. Randall asked what the difference between soul and spirit were. I thought that was a great question.
what was the answer?
The answer, as I recall, was that soul is our connection to the earth, to the physical, and spirit is our connection to the universe, or the universal, I think. She said that, I say she because it's a woman who does the channeling, but it's obviously a male entity that she's channeling. So anyway, he said that spirit, I better look at my notes, I got it written down here. Where is it? Spirit sets into the baby while it's going through the birth canal. And the soul sets at the baby's first cry. He said that spirit flits around kind of from body to body before it finds the right one. You know, Edgar Casey said something very similar to that. And soul holds us to the earth, spirit is free. He said that the soul is the one that determines when it is that we leave here. And if we've still got work to do, it keeps us here. When the soul gives the okay, spirit leaves the body. When the earth disappears, the soul goes away. And at the ending, he had us all say an affirmation together 3 or 4 times, 3 times, I think. In our uniqueness, we are one. In our oneness, we are all. So I like that a lot.
We should all dwell on that every day.
Yeah, I thought that too. In our uniqueness, we are one. In our oneness, we are all. And he put quite an emphasis on the word all. We are all. So, he said that Randall was the commander of the spaceship in a past life, and that his name was Yahweh. I think that's the way you pronounce it. He said, my guardian was some being named Sanat Kamara, and he said that this Sanat Kamara handed me his white flame to clarify the earth. He said he was sent, Sanat Kamara was sent here to clean it up. He returned and said that it was too much. It was so evil that he needed help. And he was given 144,000 volunteers to do it. And he said I was one of them, and so was Randall. And a couple other things that got my attention was at one point, and I never saw this woman before. At one point he said, there's a poet among you with much wisdom. And as far as I know, I'm the only one there who's written poetry. And another time, he said, he called us little ones. He said, one of you little ones had the opportunity to touch a newborn whale. Well, I never touched a newborn whale, but I did touch a baby whale one time. We loaded him on a pickup truck on Bainbridge Island back in the 60s. I don't know anyone else who ever touched a whale, so how did he know that? I don't know. So anyway, there was more interesting stuff. Stephanie, who sometimes come here, was there. And so was Nicole. And yeah, that's all the people you would know that were there. So anyway, it was quite interesting. At least I thought it was. He shuffled across the room, she did, with her eyes shut. She kind of walked like a person with Parkinson's, you know, shuffling, only fairly quickly. Came across the room and handed me a pin and said, I'm going to give you my pin. But her eyes were shut the whole time she walked across the room and gave me the pin and walked back to the chair. And this is the pin she gave me, which it's got kind of a scripted A on it. Interesting. So I decided he gave it to me, I'm going to wear it. Yeah. So I don't know, did I leave out anything, Randall?
Other than she somehow knew that Nicole and I were having a relationship, and she kind of explained some things about what was going on there. And one thing that created some snickers from everybody was that when the channeler said, well, Commander, you've got your hands full with this one. I already knew that. But I thought it was interesting that somehow there was this understanding about stuff that was going on with us individually as well as together. And neither of us knew her. She was a stranger to us. And so it was, and she talked about me being the commander of my vessel, and you know, I mean, I live on a sailboat, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but it seemed kind of an interesting connection. And so anyway, that's all I have to add.
I did ask her about, I mentioned that several of us were students/teachers of A Course in Miracles, and I asked her about illusion, and I thought his answer was pretty good. He said, if you don't think this table is real, try walking through it. Or if you don't think this wall is real, try walking through it. But he said you create what you believe. And that's the part that's illusion. It's there if I believe it's there. If I don't believe it's there, it's not there. Which that reminds me of the first few lessons in the Course. Huh? this table had, the only meaning it has is what I give it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It also should point out to us the strength of our belief, the fact that you can't walk through it. Because the fact of the matter is, if it were your belief that you could, you would.
Yeah. He did make several positive comments about the Course in Miracles too, but I don't recall now what they were.
Anybody else?
One more thing just come to me. Stephanie said, "Why would I forget my innocence?" And I thought that was a great question too. Why would I come here and forget my innocence? And the answer was that when we're young children, and you know Greg Braden says up to the age of about 7, we're in a hypnagogic state. That is, we take in suggestions. So he talked about the kind of suggestions that we get when we're babies. No, don't do that. You're bad. That kind of thing. And he talked about how often we hear that as children. From teachers, parents, bullies, all kinds of people, you know. And that we take that in. And he did agree that we're often held and told that we're beautiful as babies, but we don't hear it near as much as we hear the negative stuff. And people criticize us, they say no. The other thing he said about that was live from the heart and throw the shoulds out the window.
You know, your thing about babies, I just have to share this. I was a very active child, apparently, and I shook my crib. And I shook it, and I shook it, and I shook it until it literally fell apart. And I came walking out of the bedroom, you know, leaving the pile of bed parts behind me. And my dad took care of that problem by taking 4 boards, 2x6s, and nailing them together in a rectangle. And then he actually did this. He nailed them to the floor, the hardwood floor in his rental house. And threw the mattress in it and looked at me and said, "That'll take care of you." And then I had a babysitter that tied me in a high chair with dish towels. And I heard this story later, and people would say, well, ask my mom, well, how did you feel about, you know, the babysitter had tied your son in a chair? And she says, I thought it was pretty ingenious. But I wonder about, you know, the messages that a child gets when you have these experiences and that there's something wrong with you.
The thing we need to remember, Randall, is that that experience didn't come to us, nor did it shape our awareness of ourselves. It came to us as a mirror for what we already believed.
Just like the card you read.
What's that?
Indeed.
So
Like
does the bad,
card that we heard twice. 2 people have that card.
so does the negative image we have go all the way back to the guilt and the separation? And,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
We put the cart before the horse. Remember I wrote a poem called Not the Cart Before the Horse? And I think that's what we're talking about here. We think it came from all these people saying these things to us. You're telling us that all these people said these things to us because that was our belief to begin with.
And the other thing that it's well to remember is how it matched for their belief so perfectly to tell us about our own. The two are not different. Only in the content, they're not different. Only in the context of our perception are they different at all.
I want to share something about, I don't know how long it's been, a year or a year and a half. I took my dog out for a walk. She's passed now. and the neighbor came out and attacked me, tried to kick Kumu. And I said, please don't kick her. And he said, I'll kill that dog if she ever comes around here again, and all that kind of thing. And so I can see his house from my sunroom. And I wanted to forgive him. It was very hard to do that. But I kept saying, you know, God, just forgive him. He was asking for love, and I take responsibility for my dog and everything. So I would look over at the sunroom and over at his house, and I would say, please forgive him, and forgive me and everything. So a couple of days ago, I happened to be talking to my gardener by his house, and he came over to me and he said, Teddy, I'm having a little cocktail party for the neighbors. Would you like to come? And I said, yes, I would. So I went there at 5 o'clock. I have not talked to this man since that all happened. And I was sitting next to him and having a glass of wine, and he leans over and he says, Teddy, would you please forgive me? He said, for what I said and what I did with your dog. He said, I feel terrible about it and I want your forgiveness. And I said, I already forgave you. Over and done with.
That's a leap. That's a leap.
That's good stuff, honey. Yes.
I had a dream, and in it, a male friend of mine that I'd known for many years, and something happened and I got mad at him and I shot him in the head. And I woke up and I was appalled, because that would be the last thing I would ever imagine myself doing. And then, of course, I'm trying to rationalize it as much as I can. And it occurred to me that maybe I was shooting the monkey mind, because he's a very highly intellectual guy that, you know, mentalizes everything. Either that, or I've got a violence in me that I would rather not acknowledge.
Did you ask?
No.
There's a novel idea.
That's a novel idea to ask.
It's the first time we ever heard you say that.
I was going to share just briefly about, I think I read that little thing that I sent my daughter about being in touch with your heart energy and to make decisions. And I had texted that to her, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And there was just an obvious absence of any response. And she usually responds to all my texts. And I thought, yeah, she probably didn't receive that well. And but then I thought, well, just what I've learned is that you put things out like that and you don't know. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea how it's received or where it's going to go. And so I just released it to the Spirit and I watch my text every time they come in. There was just nothing. And so anyhow, yesterday we were on the phone, and we hadn't talked for several days, and so she was just rattling off all the things going on in her life, and then she says, one more thing, Dad, one more thing, and then she says, one more thing, Dad, and then finally she says, she said, I've got to tell you this. I was at REI looking at backpacks, and I really, really wanted this really expensive backpack, but I knew I couldn't afford it. And I'd just be putting it on my credit card. And that's, been an ongoing thing in our discussions. But anyhow, so she says, and she just says, she says, I thought of you. About paying attention to my feelings. And she said, it just didn't feel good. It I just didn't have any peace about doing it. And I've been doing research on it at home, and now I'm down in REI, and I was just all geared up to buy it. And every time I think about it, I just didn't feel peaceful about it. She says, then I thought of you. And I didn't buy it. I left the store. And I said, oh my gosh, it's so cool. You know, that you put out thoughts of love, and you know, I'm on this mission of this journey of rebuilding relationships with all my kids. And she was the toughest one. She was pretty gnarly when I started to rebuild this relationship. And now we've got this real tight, where we just talk about everything, and I can say things, and she knows that I'm not criticizing. That's how she used to take this. If I would text her something like that, she would take it as disapproval. Like, I think she needs to change, and I'm rejecting her, and I'm not accepting her, and this is kind of a thing she's working through. But now she's got to the place where we have this trust relationship. And I understand that, because I had the same kind of issues with my dad. There was a complete distrust, which affected my perceptions of God. You know, trusting some other entity that's greater than me just didn't seem like a good idea until recent years. And so it's fun for me to watch my daughter grow and realize that my experience in the Course, as it changes my life, it changes others' lives as well. So thanks.
Nice.
I have something. During the past week, I was just taking out the recycle and trash, and I turned around and I saw a person coming down Lucy's stairway. And rarely, if ever, have I seen anybody come down these stairs. And I looked and I said, oh, Mike. I said, I just didn't connect you, you know. I just didn't make the connection that it was Mike. He's another neighbor on the cul-de-sac. So he comes over and he says, I was just showing Lucy my t-shirt. And he points to his t-shirt, and there is the Confederate flag. Confederate flag, yeah. And I didn't say anything. I looking. You know, I didn't say anything. I didn't feel anything. And then he said, my son bought a whole bunch of these online and was passing them out. And I still didn't say anything. And then he started talking about the tree stump, so everything was cool. So the good thing about that, maybe a small miracle, was that I was able to observe that situation without becoming a part of it.
How did you feel, Annie?
During that time, I felt nothing.
Oh, you did?
You think I did?
Yes. It's impossible not to. You wouldn't have
Well,
had the
later,
thought.
well, I think I felt disappointed. I've known this man since I moved in 25 years, and we've had conversations by the mailbox, and you know, about all kinds of things. But I had no idea. You know, I'm not, you know, like, that was like a long time ago, and that's like history. And why, you know, that's a judgment, I guess, or that's my opinion, you know, is, I just didn't see any reason to hold on to something like that. I don't know what his background was or anything. I know he has PTSD from Vietnam War, but other than that, you know, I just don't know. So how can I see things differently, you know? And it's just based on my own, yeah, I guess I felt disappointed, basically, you know. I would like everybody to, love one another. You know, get along. Why just, the old song, can't we just get along, you know?
Forgiveness is a pretty good way of changing the way you see someone.
It's always so hard for us to try to rectify the difference in our thinking between something we perceive as unloving or something we perceive as unfair. If it's unfair, we can rationalize it in 1,000 different ways. But if we judge it to be unloving, then that's it. That becomes a very fixed part of our expectation, because we think it would be, our job, so to speak, to hope everybody would be loving. But if we were to understand what the Course is really teaching us, we would see that no matter how that person felt about themselves, no matter how they acted, they were the presence of the love of God. Nothing else is true. Nothing else exists in the eyes of the God Self. So don't allow yourself to be tricked into feeling justified in any feeling at all that seems to, when someone else seems to be unloving, to be tricked by any other feeling than the desire to love them. Just that. When Brother tells us that we have no idea what it means to think that the world is unreal, he means exactly that. There are no thoughts that come from this world that have any meaning whatsoever. And the only reason we can say that is because there are no thoughts that come from this world that are wholly loving. No thoughts that are wholly loving. Everything that passes through the ego's perception leaves a trail of dust. So each time, this business that I was suggesting before, each time we have that kind of an experience, the only thing we really need to remember is to ask, what was there for me? What did I just miss? Or, what can I not miss? But to ask, to let everything become an opportunity for us to see through the eyes of the Christ.
Another way that the Course says that I like so well, it says everything that isn't love is a call for love. And if I can live that everything that isn't love is a call for love, then I would be, when I ran into a call for love, what's the right response? To love. So I think that as our awareness of that increases and we start to hear, then instead of him saying, I hate you, he's saying, I need you to love me. And it's quite a transition, but it's available to us if we're open. So then you
it's
think,
always
okay,
available.
what's that?
always available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anything that is not love has to be a call for love. What's the right response? Okay, there's a lifestyle that we can adopt right there in that statement.
Yes. Yes. Any other comments or sharings that you'd like to?
I might share this poem, The Horse Behind the Cart. I put the horse behind the cart, for from this body I am quite apart. I've seen this body as who I am, but I am the witness, this body's just a sham. It is my mind that needs to heal, this body isn't even real. I am love's presence in this false world of duality, for love must be present even in a world that has no reality. Love is present everywhere, even in a world of dreams. And God is but love, regardless of how it seems. For love is deep within me, within my very being, covered by blocks to my awareness of its presence in my seeing. Who it is I thought was me was this body that cannot be. So I must not put the cart before the horse. From this body I must get a divorce.
Any other comments? And let's go back to the lesson from yesterday. Begin there and go to today's lesson and the next two. Because as a core, all four of these lessons are exactly what we're talking about.
What's the number we're looking for?
What's the quick?
The course
lesson number?
I don't remember.
He'll tell us in a minute.
243, 245.
245?
I was on 246 today.
Yeah, 245 was last time.
I'm behind, I lost.
Page 416.
Yeah.
I don't know how you remember this book.
Oh, you're not in the work.
Yeah, I'm still on 15.
What's today's lesson number?
246.
246 would be today's.
246?
Well, we're not even there.
Page 416, Tom, if you need that.
Okay, page 416. There.
Right there. Ah, yes. To love my Father is to love his Son. Your peace is with me, Father. I am safe. Let's begin there. Jim, what do you think?
Certainly. To love my Father is to love his Son. Let me not think that I can find the way
hang
to
on,
God.
hang on, brother. Go back to the preceding lesson.
To love
Yeah,
my
let's
Father.
start there.
245.
Okay, your peace.
245.
Your peace is with me, Father.
Yes,
I am safe.
thank you.
Your peace surrounds me, Father. Where I go, your peace goes there with me. It sheds its light on everyone I meet. I bring it to the desolate and lonely and afraid. I give your peace to those who suffer pain or grieve for loss or think they are bereft of hope and happiness. Send them to me, my Father. Let me bring your peace with me. For I would save your Son as is your will, that I may come to recognize myself.
Now,
And so we go in peace to all the world. We give the message that we have received. And thus we come to hear the voice for God, who speaks to us as we relate his word, whose love we recognize because we share the word that he has given unto us.
Was that yours?
Did I miss it, or somewhere in there did he say, when you wake up you're going to do all this? Or does he just say, this is what you are?
I think he says, this is who
This is
you
what
are.
you are.
There's no waiting to wake up.
No.
No. No ifs. No whens. Just this is. This is the truth. Comments?
Well, it's nice to know we don't need to do anything to be at peace. You know, because there's a lot of that out there.
Or to bring the peace.
What's that?
Or to bring the peace.
Yeah.
When I can seem to be terribly unpeaceful. When I can seem to be totally abandoned by peace. Peace is still my
Essence.
essence. Yes. I am the love of God. Not based upon anything I see or feel. I am that now. Are you?
Yes.
Yeah.
It seems that I wobble between am and will be. There's times when I am the peace of God, and there's times when I think I will be the peace of God. But will be puts it in the future. And so moving to I am the peace of God is the journey without distance.
What about I choose to see the peace of God within me?
I choose to see it. It's already
Yeah,
there.
It's there, but
Yeah.
But finish that
I've
statement.
had some problems with
What's
not always turning there.
Finish.
I say finish that statement.
What was the statement?
What you just said a moment ago.
Tom, come on. He doesn't remember that.
And so we go in peace. Is that what we were doing?
When you were talking about being
Being.
the
Yes.
presence of peace,
Yes.
You're being as to becoming.
Yes.
being as to becoming, as
Yeah.
opposed.
I don't know about the quote, but I know that there are moments when I am the peace of God and I clearly see it, but there are a lot of moments when I am trying
The
to be
peace of
there.
God, and you just don't see it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't change anything.
Yep. I still am the peace
You
of God.
still are the peace of God.
Yeah. I found something in one of the cards that the children of God are entitled to the perfect comfort that comes from perfect trust. And then it goes on to say, until they achieve this, they waste themselves and their true creative powers on useless attempts to make themselves more comfortable by inappropriate means. And that really spoke to me because I'm in the process, I put my house on the market early in the summer and was just about ready to take it off because I thought I don't want to move anyway. And then it sold. So now I'm waiting for the response from the buyer to the inspection, and I'm hoping I fail. And I heard from somebody today that there are different kinds of inspectors. Some are really tough and some are really easy. And I said, well, I hope I get one of the tough ones. But then again, back when I put it on, it was a decision that I made in favor of my family who have to travel out here to be with me and so on. But lots of reasons I went ahead and put it on. And felt that I needed to move to be closer to family. Well, I felt more and more that I'd rather stay where I am, but I think of this looking, I've been 3 or 4 times over to Pullman to look at places, and of course the university has already started in the fall, so there's hardly anything left over there, but I was completely cut out caught up in my creature comforts. You know, what stuff can I take with me? You know, what am I going to have to give up to do this, to be comfortable, to almost carry what I've got here and expect it to be over there. And so I've really made attempts to make myself comfortable by inappropriate means, I realize. But when I first put the house on the market, I thought, okay, if it sells, it's got to be right for the buyer and it's got to be right for me. And so it probably will be. But and I'm okay with either way. But I still am caught up in the ego desire to make myself comfortable with all the things I want around me. And I didn't realize stuff, you know, Aunt Jessie's old such and such and Aunt Mabel's this and so, you know, meant something to me. And then also I made an offer on a little condo, a little sweet little condo in a retirement community. And I tried to, well, on paper, fit all the furniture into it, and I got so depressed. It was very unsettling, and I thought I had only done it a day or two before, so I could withdraw easily, and I did. I withdrew from the condo. So now I am completely out there. I have no idea what I'm going to do, and the only thing I can go back to is this trust that there will be some place, and it'll be fine. But anyway, it really helps me to come here and be with all of you, because you share that belief that everything's going to be all right.
Yes.
What if everything's always all right and we just don't get it? Have you ever thought that?
Well, I know that. Yeah.
Everything's always all right.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Here's
Well,
how you get out of that deal.
pardon?
Here's how you get out of that deal. When the buyer who had the inspection says, I want you to fix this and this and this, you say no.
Well, that's what I intend to do. I just thought if they really were using it as trying to lowball, you know, I've already come way down. And I just will say no to anything other than things that we can fix ourselves. Yeah, that's true. But then again, what was going on in my head, this will be interesting, because I finally realized the root of the problem, and this was just yesterday. I was out floating around in a kayak, and I realized that there were two voices going on in my head, and one was this little old lady who said, now you need to get over there and get settled and be happy. Just take the stuff you've got and whittle it down and spend the rest of your life there, because you need to do that. You had already said you're going to have to be there before you're 90, and you've got a couple of years left, so get over there and be happy. And then there was this other voice in my head which said, hey, you know, I love my toys, I love my pet, I want to travel, I want to do things. And those two were in great and they're both ego, I realize, you know. I mean, these are ego voices going on in my head. But somehow I've been trying to reconcile the two of them and have some kind of a decision that will satisfy both of them. But I don't know what it will be. So you can all help.
My friend George Evans calls those voices the committee of idiots.
Oh, well, I'm sure that's right.
You know, I went through this process recently where I live on a sailboat and I just don't have room for anything. And originally I came out of a 4,000 square foot house. It was just stuff full of stuff. And it was, so I finally went down to Eugene and got rid of that storage unit and dispersed everything out, but I mean, there's some nice pieces of furniture and lots of artwork and things. I mean, just stuff that I hadn't yet been willing to let go of. And so going through that process of disposing of everything, I went down there with an empty car, my station wagon and my van, and I thought I was going to come back with it stuffed full, and then still trying to figure out what to do with some of that stuff. But I came back with an empty van.
Wow.
So it was very successful with my intention to go down there. But here's what I find myself looking at everything in my life now through the eyes of through the teachings of the Course, and it's like I started thinking about, I mean, the question came to me, what are all these old things? What are they? I mean, they're nothing. They don't, they're history. And what is history? It's something that doesn't exist anymore, except in my mind. And I thought, I started looking deeper and deeper into these things that I wanted to hang on to, that have, and all these emotions I have around all these photographs of all my kids and extended all of my grandkids, and I thought, I don't even need these pictures anymore. And so I spent a lot of time sorting them all out and returning them back to the families. And I thought, if I ever want to see the pictures, I know where to go. I don't have to pay to store these things. But anyway, that's my point in bringing this up. Was I looked at stuff and realized that these things represented my identity. I identified with every single piece of furniture and every piece of artwork. They all had memories, and those memories formed my human personality, my human self, my ego self, the little I. That's what makes up all that. And if I hang on to these things and I have to keep them, it's like I'm not willing to let go of that identity. And then I realized it was so wonderful, because I came to this, once I walked back through all of this and trying to reason through what was really happening, it was just that point when, and I'm sure you've all experienced this, when the realization came to me that I didn't need any of it anymore. And it was freedom. And when I closed that door, we swept the storage unit out, and I closed that door down, I turned around and I looked at my daughter and I said, "I'm free!" And it was more than just freedom from furniture and knickknacks and all that stuff. It was freedom from these ego connections. And so it became a spiritual experience for me. So anyway.
That's great.
I felt that way yesterday when I made that decision that I did not want to accept that little tiny condo with one tiny closet. I felt liberated. I felt free. And I feel that I don't know what's going to happen, but there's still that feeling of liberation, that feeling of freedom. But it needs to be filled with spirit rather than ego comfort. And that's hard.
You can do both.
Pardon?
You can do both.
Do both?
Yeah, you can.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that will happen. Yeah.
I remember one time Brother said, the time it takes you to get to heaven is directly influenced by the amount of baggage you carry.
By the amount of baggage you carry. Yeah,
Brother.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I have to say, Jim and I have downsized 3 times, and each time it is such a lightness and such a sense of freedom. Went from, I don't know why we sold one home, then bought 2 others after that. And when we sold the other one, we said, okay, we don't, it's not our lifestyle. We really don't enjoy doing yard work or anything else that requires, and we didn't want to spend our money that way, having it done. And but without the course and coming to that sense of peace before we made any decisions, probably would have been more traumatic. But I can't remember any trauma about it now. Maybe the first one, but I don't have any sense that it was that traumatic for us with the last one. It was just wow, okay, yes. Like here we are, we have this freedom, and we went to 7 states after that. We decided we were going to check out 7 different places to retire. And it was great. But our only criteria was that we would need to stay 3 years in each state. So we would make sure that, that we did get a feeling for where we were at. And guess what we did? We came back to the very first one.
And here we are.
Yeah.
And people, but we've always just had some type of a sense of peace when we're on the move, when we're looking at things from a different perspective. And so with that in mind, we had made some wonderful friends and kept in touch. But every time it's a downsizing. And I just don't remember now the first one being that traumatic, but I probably was, more so than I like to admit. But I just don't, it's not a part of who I am anymore. But we've downsized 3 times.
I'm just afraid she's going to downsize me pretty soon.
That day will come, dear.
It's funny how we call it downsizing.
Yeah, we do, but it's just letting go of all those. Because Jim has still got a lot of tools he's never going to touch again that he can't let go of. They become part of that identity.
You want to buy some tools?
That makes me laugh. Jerry had all these tools. When he died, you should see my little toolbox. It's a little red toolbox.
Yeah.
It's just got everything I need.
Everything
else
one
wins.
that's this big. That's all I'm going to take.
Things. There's us and there's things. And we think sometimes that one of those things will make us happy. And that's where we go. We're basically insane at that moment to think that a thing will make us happy. Where's happy? It's up here. It's not out there. And so this idea of letting go of things has been an interesting journey for both of us. And now we're to the point where it's so much easier to shrug and say, yeah, I really don't need that. And it's just a thing.
Anybody else? Sally, would you like to take the next one?
Sure.
To love my father is to love his son.
This is 246.
Yes.
Yeah. To love my father is to love his son. Let me not think that I can find the way to God if I have hatred in my heart.
Oh,
Let me not try to hurt God's son and think that I can know his father or myself. Let me not fail to recognize myself and still believe that my awareness can contain my father, or my mind conceive of all the love my father has for me, and all the love which I return to him. And then in parentheses, I will accept the way you chose for me to come to you, my Father. For in that will I succeed, because it is your will, and I would recognize that what you will is what I will as well, and only that. And so I choose to love your son. Amen. That brings me back to something that was said earlier. We talk about coming here, in spirit or whatever, I think we decide before we get here what we want to learn on this one. You know, if we realize that if our God self, our love, intelligence, says, wait a minute, you still haven't forgiven, or whatever it is, I've always felt that we chose then the avenue, the parents, the climate, everything that we chose to learn this time, to learn to move on, to move from not being awake to awakening. And quite honestly, I always felt I'd choose the softer positives. I always decided, hey, I don't want the 2x4s this time, just give me the lessons nicely, please. Because I've had a wonderful life. And the lessons have come, but I don't think I've had the 2x4s. And I'm grateful for that. I haven't had the big hits over the head. But I do recognize when the lessons are there. And I don't know, it's just the way I feel about it. I don't feel that God loves us. He would not want us to suffer. And so if we're willing to be open, then we're going to hear what He has in store for us. Or if we're willing to, I don't know, be open. If we're willing to just see things through His eyes, through the law of intelligence, we're willing to.
If God's will for us is perfect happiness, do we expect God to bring that to us? Or are we in charge of creating that perfect happiness?
Are we in charge of having an open enough mind to see that everything that we wish for is what we have? Nothing is missing ever. And the thing that I want most is always going to be the thing that I feel I am denied the most.
Would you say that again, please?
The thing that I want the most will always be the thing that I feel that I best deserve not to have.
Of course, otherwise we wouldn't be wanting it.
Otherwise, you would have it.
Yeah.
We'd have it.
So then we find it, and then there's something else. Something else. It's an interesting game we play.
Want itself, the word want, is such an interesting word. When I want something, by definition I don't have it. And yet if I get it, what will I do? I'll find something else that I want. And I think, you know, I read the Zen teachers, and they talked about reducing your life down to the clothes you wear and the food you eat. And I thought, wow, do they really do that? Yes, they do. And I thought, do I want to go there? Give it a couple of weeks.
But even that is not necessary. All we have to do is learn how to love ourselves. Just that. There's no reason not to love yourself. And once we recognize that, there's nothing that we don't have. Any other comments?
It strikes me here that in that second paragraph that what I'm hearing it say to me is, you know, the way to God is to love our brothers. And so we're back to looking past the external shell, whatever they're wearing or whatever how they're behaving is irrelevant, because the love that is within, and that's what we're asked to see. And it's always been a huge mystery to me about how you look past the things that irritate you. And However, I'm having experiences in my life currently where that really is happening, where I'm confronted with something that in the past it would have triggered me, and now I have no response. I mean, there's no feeling. It's like I'm not acknowledging the external, the ego presentation, and I'm remembering, or I'm just not reacting, and then I'm able to walk away and think about, why didn't I react? And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, there's a change that's gradually starting to take place. But
we're kind of going from out there to in here.
Mm-hmm.
And as we do this, out there falls away. I mean, it's still out there, but it means less and less and less and less to us. And in here is, I'm learning how to love. That's what I'm about. Probably that's our journey. That journey without distance to that place we never left. Maybe that's what they're talking about. Learning how to love. But love has no conditions. So
love is not a thing. It's not a feeling. It's not a feeling.
no, it's not a feeling. It's a thought.
Love is something, it's like the air that you breathe. It's just there. It's always there for everyone. And to see it and not to see it means you don't see it.
So would you say
Love, excuse me, darling.
Yeah, go ahead.
Love truly has no opposite. There is not something that is opposed to love. There is nothing that is not lovable. There is only the feeling of how you see it in relationship to yourself. So you see yourself being the presence of love. The very presence of love. That's the meaning of oneness. That's the only reason that oneness has any meaning whatsoever. Because it teaches you that you are now a part of that sense of loving.
So what is that feeling of love then? You say love is not...
That's the ego's interpretation.
What was that?
The ego's interpretation.
Oh, yeah.
What the ego feels it can accept without jeopardizing its sense of separateness.
I really like the analogy of love being like the air we breathe. So if we're taking it in and letting it out, is that a fair analogy then?
Whatever you feel is sustaining you. See it as that medium. Whatever sustains you, that is what love is. Because that is what God is. A couple of small words in the course. God is but love. Therefore so am I. It says it all.
I go to bed with that. That's my last.
Oh, that's beautiful.
What better thought could you have? Yes.
So the word hatred in here seems like a very strong word to me. If you asked me if I hated anyone years ago, I would say no. But if you asked me if I resented anyone, I would say yes. Today, I don't see any difference in those two.
There isn't.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
There isn't any difference between being mildly upset with someone and hating them.
And hatred, yeah.
Or ignoring somebody, which is a way of,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
We were talking about acknowledging the love in the person that we're encountering. And what crossed my mind is if I'm acknowledging your external, your ego covering, then that's a reflection of what I'm seeing here, then my attachment to that belief, of course, gets projected out, and then I see your ego self. So it really comes back to attachment to the ego thought system, I guess. And I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but it's just being able to see it as an attachment. And then we were talking about attachment to antiques and things, and I was thinking, it's all the ego world. It's what it all is, and then we get attached to it, and then we have reactions. Anyway, somebody hope we can make sense out of that. But.
In Latin, ego means I am. But if I think I am, that means I think you're not. So there's another I am that sees it all as I am. Mm-hmm. And that's where we're going. That's where we're headed. Mm-hmm. Where there's no part of anything that is not me. It's all. I mean, let's face it. If I die, the world stops. It's gone. Now, to the rest of you, it might still be here. But to me, it's gone, right? Mm-hmm. That's at least the way we look at it. We really don't know because we haven't, to our knowledge, died lately. But it's all about the perception of things. And if we realize that that's God and that's God and that's God and that's God and the wreck on the freeway's God and the war's God and no exceptions, then maybe we'll get a sense of what God is. We say God is, and then we cease to speak, it tells us. There's a lot of wisdom in that.
There's an equal amount of wisdom, Jim.
What's that?
There's an equal amount of wisdom in saying, I am, and then I cease to speak.
Yes.
Anyone else? Mary Alice? Would you like to take the next lesson?
Lesson 247.
247.
Without forgiveness, I will still be blind. Sin is a symbol of attack. Behold it anywhere, and I will suffer. For forgiveness is the only means whereby Christ's vision comes to me.
Stop there for a minute. Repeat that last sentence.
Sin is a symbol of attack. Or the next one.
No, the one you read before that.
Without forgiveness, I will still be blind?
Yes.
Okay. Without forgiveness, I will still be blind.
What does that mean?
Wow.
I won't see things as they truly are.
What is forgiveness? The willingness to see differently. So without forgiveness, we aren't seeing anything any different. So we would still be blind. Are we willing to accept that? Challenge. A real challenge. I'm sorry, honey, go ahead.
Sin is a symbol of attack. Behold it anywhere, and I will suffer. For forgiveness is the only means whereby Christ's vision comes to me. Let me accept what his sight shows me as a simple truth, and I am healed completely. Brother, come and let me look on you. Your loveliness reflects my own. Your sinlessness is mine. You stand forgiven, and I stand with you. So would I look up on everyone today? My brothers are your sons. Your fatherhood created them and gave them all to me as part of you and my own self as well. Today I honor you through them, and thus I hope this day to recognize myself.
If I behold sin anywhere, I will suffer. Not the one I am beholding being sinful. I will suffer. If sin is in my mind, then guess who it's going to affect? How about we just take an extra couple of minutes and finish up the next lesson, because it's such an integral part of the three we've already read. Do you want to take the next one?
Whatever suffers is not part of me.
There we go.
I have disowned the truth. Now let me be as faithful as disowning falsity. Whatever suffers is not part of me. What grieves is not myself. What is in pain is but illusion in my mind. What dies was never living in reality, and did but mock the truth about myself. Now I disown self-concepts and deceits and lies about the Holy Son of God. Now am I ready to accept him back as God created him and as he is. Father, my ancient love for you returns and lets me love your Son again as well. Father, I am as you created me. Now is your love remembered and my own. Now do I understand that they are one.
It's always been apparent to me that if I accepted that one lesson, that would be as awake as I could be.
You could walk on water.
Yes. And then it's always discouraging to remind myself, the only reason you aren't is because you are not willing to accept it. Nothing withholds it. There's nothing I have to earn. Nothing that I need to experience differently. Not even see differently. Just myself. If I were just to say to you, you are the holy child of God, and mean it, we're both free.
I have something written that probably you said, maybe years ago. Love is the filter through which I see. Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yes.
And then another thing, change our mind to what we want to be true. Invoke the presence of truth through asking the Holy Spirit to show me the truth about ... So that's very pertinent too. Change my mind to what I want to see to be true, but what I want to be true, invoke the presence of truth through asking the Holy Spirit to show me the truth about whatever it is that is the problem.
That's for you. Today.
I bet if we look at it, the truth about whatever it is that is the problem is always the same truth, because it's universally. What it's saying is everything's perfect except to the ego. You know what?
Yeah.
If we could live there,
You're perfect. Wherever you take you, God's there. Doesn't matter where you go.
I don't want to know.
Patience. I know. It's a good one.
Okay, any other comments?
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a friend, John, who will be joining us. We have a friend, John, who lived with us in Kauai.
Yeah.
And his favorite expression, when we finish up with our God talk in the morning, is, then today we go on our way rejoicing.
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 On our way rejoicing.
Sounds like a hymn.
Yes.
The choice.
So go on your way rejoicing, my friends. We're proud. Okay.